Go.
Habaragani, welcome everyone to the 21-22 celebration of Kwanzaa. Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing has teamed up with Conducting Creativity and Backyard Enterprises to present the annual community-wide celebration of Kwanzaa. I am Garbo, Hearne, and excited to be a part of this conversation and celebration once again. This year's theme is Kwanzaa 365, with the goal of planting the seeds necessary to encourage, facilitate, and incorporate the use of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa year-round. Due to the pandemic, the celebrations will be held virtually. We strive to keep our community healthy. Join us each day, December 26th through January 1 at 1 p.m. Conducting Creativity, a 501c3 nonprofit whose primary mission is to close the educational and talent development gap for creatives, leaders, entrepreneurs, and artists, has assembled community speakers and creatives to be featured each day. Wesley Peters is here to join us and help us put this presentation together. Zawadi, Swahili for Gift, is given every year on the last day of Kwanzaa. Staying true to Kwanzaa founder, Dr. Karenga's directive of giving the gift of knowledge, we will be collecting new and gently used books. This year's recipients of Community Zawadi is the Storybook Project of Arkansas. Books can be dropped off at Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing at 1001 Wright Avenue through January 1, 2022. So thank you all for being here today. And the next voice you will hear is Wesley Peters.
Habaragani, Ms. Hearne said it best. We are here for the Kwanzaa 365. When she approached me about doing Kwanzaa this year, I was all on it. And the conversation that we have been having was, how can we make Kwanzaa something that we celebrate, not just for these 7 days, but for 365 days, all throughout 2022. How can we embody the spirit of Kwanzaa? And as we began brainstorming, we kind of came up with the concept, like Ms. Hearne said, of Kwanzaa 365, and really wanted to do these industry insights. So this isn't going to be the traditional Kwanzaa ceremony, though we will keep the traditions. We're going to have a conversation today about unity in the standpoint of how are we unifying our artists? How are we unifying our writers? How are we unifying our creatives? And not just fine artists, but all artists. So they'll be later on in the ceremony, but now we have a brief history of Kwanzaa from Auna Hearne.
Hello, welcome to the Little Rock citywide commemoration of Kwanzaa. My name is Auna Hearne, and I just wanted to give you all a short background of Kwanzaa and give you an explanation of some of the things that we will use during the ceremony today. So let's get started with what is Kwanzaa. Before we can talk about the holiday, we can kind of talk about the founder, Dr. Karenga. He is a professor and chair of the Department of Africana Studies at California State University. Dr. Karenga created Kwanzaa in 1966, a very tumultuous time in African American history and American history with the Watts Rebellion. Dr. Karenga wanted to create a holiday that was mainly rooted in family and culture and reflection. It's not necessarily a religious holiday. It is a cultural one that celebrates our talents, celebrates each member of the family. And even though it is not celebrated by just one religion, there will be some spiritual qualities that you'll see throughout the ceremony. So the holiday. Kwanzaa is celebrated every day between December 26th and January 1st. A different principle is celebrated each day that is designed to be about reflection and what we want to do for the new year. Kwanzaa comes from the Swahili phrase Matunda ya Kwanzaa, which means first fruits. So this is a time of reflection, a time of thinking about what you want for the new year of harvest. A lot of people, they print Kwanzaa with just one A at the end, or you may see it how we printed it here. Fun fact, when they first celebrated Kwanzaa back in 1966, Dr. Karenga had 7 children in his household, and every child wanted to be represented with a letter. So they added the extra A for Kwanzaa. And it's very fitting because we have 7 principles, 7 letters. So Kwanzaa is not a replacement for Christmas. Many people celebrate both. It is celebrated all over the world by different faiths, nationalities, and cultures. It is truly a universal holiday. Swahili, the language that we use to explain what Kwanzaa means, is a language that is spoken widely on the African continent. And the celebration of Kwanzaa is modeled on traditional African harvest festivals. So let's get into our 7 principles. The Nguzo Saba, Nguzo's principle, Saba, 7 principles. You'll see on the screen the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Every day during the week of Kwanzaa, you may hear someone ask, Habari Gani, or what's the news? What's the principle of the day? So when someone asks, hey, Habari Gani, you're supposed to give them the principle of today. So our principles are celebrated each day. Umoja, unity. Kujichagulia, self-determination. Ujima, collective work and responsibility. Ujama, cooperative economics. Nia, purpose. Kuumba, creativity. Imani, faith. Habari Gani. So the symbols in Kwanzaa table, as you can see, 7 candles on the screen. They're in red, black, and green. Let's talk about why red, black, and green candles. This is the Pan-African flag. Those are the colors of the diaspora. The red stands for the blood that has been shed for the liberation of Black people and those throughout the diaspora. The black is for the color of our skin, for our people. Green is the abundant natural wealth of Africa, those lush landscapes, the things that Africa has contributed to the world. So these colors are very important and significant to our celebration and really help us to reflect on what our people have been through and what we continue to contribute to the world. So Kwanzaa is celebrated different ways by different families, but there are common elements that you will see on every Kwanzaa table. Before we can start talking about the Kwanzaa setup, we have to talk about the foundation. To have a strong house, you have to have a strong foundation. And the foundation of our Kwanzaa setup is the mkeka. That is a straw mat. It's usually almost handmade, and it is the setting for our Kwanzaa setup. Just like Hanukkah has the menorah, the Kwanzaa setup is hosted by the Kinara, that is our candle holder. And the Kinara hosts the Mashuma Saba. There's the word Saba again. There's 7 candles which represent the Nguzo Saba. And a principle is celebrated each day, and we'll light a candle for that principle. As I said earlier, Kwanzaa is from a longer phrase, Matunda ya Kwanzaa, which is first fruits of the harvest. And our harvest is represented here on the table with the Mazeo. Babunzi, Kwanzaa is about family, our community, our culture, and everyone should see themselves in the ceremony, in the symbols on the table. And the Babunzi stands for the number of children in our household. I know we have a lot of children and community members watching, so the children in our community this year will be represented by the kernels on the corn. The first day of Kwanzaa is Umoja Unity. So the Kikombe Cha Umoja is the unity cup, and it will be used in our libation ceremony to lift up those elders who have passed on. And last but not least, we have Zawadi. These are gifts that are given during Kwanzaa. Dr. Karenga, the founder of Kwanzaa, felt like Kwanzaa had become felt like Christmas had become really commercial. People were focused on buying all these gifts and not really focusing on the family and community. And so what he wanted to do was still give gifts during Kwanzaa, but they are to be homemade or knowledge. So if you cook well, if you sew, those are gifts that you can give during Kwanzaa, or books that are sources of knowledge to enrich someone's life. So this is our Kwanzaa setup. And now just a really brief overview of the ceremony. As I said earlier, everyone should be represented in the Kwanzaa ceremony or the setup. We always ask permission of an elder to begin. We recognize their wisdom and their time on this earth. So we just want to get that permission, that blessing to start. Then our host for the day will introduce the principal and give us some reflections. Then we'll have our libation ceremony, which lifts up those members of our community that have passed on, that really embodied Umoja in their lifetime. Our host will introduce our community leader, who will reflect on the day's principle. Then we'll have volunteers, community members, share how they want to embody the day's principle going forward. Our host will come back to introduce our creative expression. We'll enjoy the talents of our best and brightest artisans. Then we'll light the Kinara for the principle of that day, followed by community announcements. We're going to talk about our community Zawadi as well as the next day, and we welcome volunteers. And we'll close out our ceremony with Harambe, which means pull or come together. Thank you so much, and we look forward to celebrating each day of Kwanzaa with you.
Thank you, Auna, for the history. Before we go any further, as Auna was explaining, we would like to honor the elders in our community by asking permission to begin this ceremony. So the oldest person in this chat, if we can have everybody come off of mute, will the oldest person give us permission to begin this ceremony?
Please go forward.
You're not the oldest one, but
I look old.
So without further ado, the next thing that we have on our agenda is the libation ceremony. So we have a special guest that is going to do them, Angelo Glover.
Yes, I'm ready. All right. Our fathers, mothers came here, lived, loved, and struggled and built here. At this place, their love and labor rose like the sun and gave strength and meaning to the day. For them then who gave so much, we give in return. On this same soil, we will sow our seeds in liberation, a higher level of human life. May our eyes be the eagle, our strength be the elephant, and boldness of our life be like the lion. And may we remember and honor our ancestors and the legacy they left for as long as the sun shines and the waters flow. At this time, we will pause for a moment of silence. Please unmute and lift up the name of an ancestor that embodied the spirit of Umoja in their lifetime. On the count of 3, say that name.
McAdoo.
Bobby Bransfield.
Deborah.
Stella Thomas.
We will close our libation ceremony with amen.
Ashe.
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 Thank you, Mr. Glover. We'll have a brief, we're gonna change up just a little bit. We have our mayor here, Mr. Frank Scott Jr. He's going to say a few words.
Habari Gani. I just want to take this time to share appreciation to the Little Rock Citywide Kwanzaa Celebration Committee for being steadfast and continuing this great celebration here in our city, despite the pandemic. So really want to take time to honor Auna and Garbo, Hearne, and the entire committee for ensuring that we continue to be steadfast in our culture, that we continue to move forward. In light of today being Umoja, focusing on unity, I want us to all remind each other that while we are focused on unity, unity is not easy. It comes with great work. It comes with great strides. But as we're focused on unity, one of the key elements is focusing on true equity, and by identifying the needed resources to bring all of us up together. And as we're working on being together, it moves us forward together by building relationships and trust, and truly focused on change management, and understanding that as we invoke unity, that it may not be easy, but as Frederick Douglass once said, where there's no struggle, there's no progress. Ashe and amen.
Ashe. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Without further ado, we have coming up next, conducting creativity. A good friend of mine, RanDarrious Blount, is going to lead a conversation about Umoja, specifically in the art community, unifying artists. And we have a great group of panelists that's going to join him today. So the next voice that you will hear is going to be RanDarrious Blount.
Hi, everybody. My name is RanDarrious Blount. I'm with Conducting Creativity. Today, we're just going to have a little conversation about Umoja and what that means for us as not only the art community, but the Black and African community throughout the world and throughout our culture. So I just want to go around real quick and have everybody introduce ourselves. We got a lovely panel of guests here today. So starting with anyone. Everybody else is muted.
I unmuted, I think. You can hear me okay now? Okay.
Yes, sir. Mr. Oliver, can you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick?
Okay, I'm sorry. Hello, my name is Patrick Oliver. I am the founder of Say It Loud Readers and Writers, a literary arts organization. April of 2022, we will be celebrating 25 years of scheduling, planning, creating, identifying, celebrating Black literature and culture.
Congratulations. Ms. Louise?
Right. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to get to be here and in such good company. My name is Louise Mandumbwa, and I am a visual artist based here in Central Arkansas. I work primarily as a portraiture artist, and so I paint people.
Yes, and I'm Victoria Mays, and I'm the owner and editor of Into Print Editing and Publishing. So I do a lot of contract editing professionally, along with helping writers who want to publish, get those books published and written, and coaching them through that process.
All right. So I just want to go ahead and kick this off. First things first, Umoja, what we're focusing on today is unity, to strive and maintain unity for the family, community, nation, and race. And I think we have a wonderful, choice of people here today to actually speak on that and represent this real well. So first, I want to start off with a question for everybody. What efforts can be made by the community to archive and uplift artists and creatives in our community and nationwide?
Ladies first.
All right, I guess I will go first. I think a word that I want to kind of hold on to that you said that stood out to me was archive. So the idea that our work and the culture that we produce, not only here in the US, but in the diaspora, is something that is worth archiving, worth keeping. And that says something about how we value our stories. I think if you kind of look historically even at how Africans tell their history, it's oral history. So much of it is about the beauty of sharing those stories. So whether that's around a campfire or it's, you know, written or it's something that is visual, we are always telling stories about ourselves and what we value and what is important to us through our art, you know, whether that is music as well. That's another dimension of how we get to really celebrate. And so I think people like Mr. Oliver and like Victoria are incredibly important because those stories need to be recorded in a way that can be held onto for future generations. So I think, you know, different spaces that we get to intentionally share, whether that is making sure that you're investing in young artists that are around us. I know that I'm maybe in a bit of a unique position because I have many wonderfully talented young Black and brown children that aren't always encouraged to pursue those, you know, creative gifts that they've been given. They're pushed into other fields that people think are more substantive, STEM, things that are more of a sure shot, if I can put it that way. And that investment in archiving is not only in purchasing the work of people that are well established, but also encouraging the many brilliant young minds that have so much to say and share, and making sure that those skills are nurtured. And part of that is definitely having a change in perspective. So for my part, I think that it's twofold. It is looking at the artists and the makers that make our lives wonderful, and bring more into our life, bring more light into our life, and celebrating them, but also celebrating the young minds and the young children that are coming up after them, so that we will continue to have storytellers that are able to celebrate and share the experience that we have together.
That's beautiful. Mr. Oliver, Miss Victoria, I believe you two have a real good grasp on what it looks like to, you know, help new artists and help, you know, people with that creative talent to really blossom and, you know, move forward and get a chance to experience and, you know, show that art out to the world. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with all that?
Victoria, you want to go ahead? You want me to go ahead, or was it on Victoria? Well, I like what she was saying earlier in terms of value and investment. Two very important things when we talk about art, particularly Black art, Black literature, Black culture. We have to value it. I mean, we talk about it, but do we really value it? Do we prioritize it? Where is it in our schools? Where is it in our communities? You know, that's when you value it. You make it a priority. You know, are our families prioritizing, valuing art like they should in our homes? Is it there? Is it on the wall? Is it on our bookshelves? Is it part of our holiday gifts? Is it part of our birthday gifts? You know, and when we're talking about culture, we're talking about art, when we're talking about preservation, I mean, are we really valuing it the way it should? And then investment. Are we really investing? I'm not talking about investing. I'm talking about investment that comes from, we just had the mayor on. What kind of investment are we doing from a political standpoint as a city? What about churches doing in terms of nurturing young artists? What tax dollars are we spending to nurture young artists? You know, what monies are we out there? I'm in literature. I'm extremely disappointed in the literary arts programs that are non-existent in the Little Rock School District. Particularly, we're talking about young artists who want to take the next step in developing their craft, getting to a bigger platform. You can't get into a bigger platform if you can't write proposals to get access to those platforms. And if you can't, if you're not writing, you're not learning creative writing in schools to be able to share your story, tell your story, how are you going to participate? So I'm, again, extremely disappointed in some of the investment that is not taking place when we're talking about literary arts. The Central Arkansas Library System, and I give them credit, they're doing a tremendous job of supporting literature. They host a literary festival every year. It went virtual this year because of the pandemic. It was virtual last year as well. Did a tremendous job of doing that. But and they had diversity. They had some really nice, diverse authors and that participated. So that's also investment and in terms of value. They value the opinion and literary genius of Black folks. So that's important. So we got to make sure the institutions around the city value Black art, particularly the young creatives that are coming up. I do my best to support young writers. When they call me, I feed into them. Some of them don't like some of the information I feed into them because it's very critical. But they need to hear both sides of it. So again, that's a fantastic question in terms of supporting the arts. But again, I love the 2 points she made earlier: value and investment. But until people value Black artists and young Black creatives, and then once you value it, where are those dollars at? Where are those dollars to support Black literary festivals, Black art festivals? Where are the city's investment? Black folks make up about 45% of the Black population in Little Rock, Arkansas. Why is there not a huge Black literary festival, huge Black art festival with people participating on a large scale? And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Oh gosh, Miss Oliver, I'm here for that Black Art Festival. I'm here for that. And to just kind of piggyback on both of you all's perspectives, Louise as well. For me, I just connect, when I think about art, I think about this historical preservation of all of our stories. And something along in my work is this idea of how do we preserve our culture, the stories that each of us embody and have lived, and how do we embrace that, right? So for me, I think just on how I'm targeting, I guess, the art world is in a sense of recognizing that we all have value. And what would the world look like if our only commitment or our only purpose was to write our story before we left this world, right? What value would it be if we read or, participated in the art that everyone left behind, right? So kind of thinking in the bigger, picture world of that. But just in a sense of, I think through art, we're able to express ourselves. We're able to record what's going on, whether that be the now, what we hope to happen in the future, or even just recording what's happened in the past, whether that's through words, visual art, like Louise painting, capturing one's essence through, different works in that sense, but kind of like, what is our responsibility? And for me, I think in lighter terms, I believe we all are creators, and we all have the power to create, and it's up to us to discover what that is, and in what way are we going to give back. And with that, I think it's, it gets even deeper than that, and Mr. Oliver hinted towards that, and I'm sure this discussion is going to go into that too, but just kind of like, how can we invest in that? How can we invest? How can we nurture that in ourselves and in other people? How can we truly embody this creative form that we are to be anyways organically in that sense? So just to kind of, so I guess, and I guess just to answer your question about this uplifting artists, I think, of course, thinking financially, politically, et cetera, but also just at the foundational, how can we start to help generations that are coming up after all of us embody creativity, embody art to live out that statement?
Yeah, y'all answered the next question that I actually had in great detail, I might add. I was wondering about, how do we create or give value to artists in our community? And I know that you all have a bunch of, Mr. Oliver has some programs that I've been interested in on, helping to uplift and create, young literary minds and writers moving forward in the next generation. Mr. Oliver, do you have any insight on any of those programs?
In terms of developing new programs, or just expounding on what we're currently doing?
Yes, sir.
Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, very good questions. First of all, great moderator, good questions, because it get right to the point, you know, in terms of what's necessary. And again, understanding there are some awesome creators in Arkansas. And did I lose you?
No, we still got you.
I'm back. I'm back. I'm driving, so not driving, but I'm a passenger. But there are some awesome young creators in Arkansas, and we need an arts incubator, an arts hub, literary hub, and that's one of the things I'm working on to make happen in Little Rock. Hopefully we can kick it off in April as part of our anniversary. But a literary innovation hub. We need folk who really understand what it means in terms of Black literature. Are the institutions, particularly of higher ed in Arkansas, sharing with the educators who are going to the public school system the type of innovation we're talking about moving into the future? And in many cases, you can't find major college campuses in Arkansas that's teaching a high level of Black literature that's really focused on voices like individuals we just lost, Black Bell Hooks. That's what young people want to hear and read about. I know the sessions that we've done in Arkansas, young people are hungry for creative writing programs like that. So literary innovation is extremely important. Sometimes people don't tie word innovation to literature, but if you travel around the country and see what's happening around literature, it's extremely innovative. But if your team, your institution that you're working with is not traveling around the country, seeing what's happening, you're selling people the same old dull curriculum, pedagogy, and methodology that's been used for the past 15 or 20 years, and the world is way past that.
Person. Does anybody else have anything to piggyback off of that? Okay, so we've heard a lot about what these programs haven't been doing for us. What are some programs specifically that have helped you all, that have molded you all and helped guide your talents into becoming the artists and creatives and uplifters that you are today?
If it's all right, I'd love to go because this is something I feel very strongly about. When I was younger, I had kind of heard about the myth of the genius artist, that there are these wonderful people that arrive in the world and they have everything that they need and they have so much to give. But the reality is that often there's a lot that has been poured into those people by their communities and by other artists. And as someone that's not only a recent graduate, but as an emerging artist as well, and a painter, I can definitely speak to the community of artists that I've gotten to plug into here in Little Rock and in Central Arkansas. The first exhibition that I had, I think I just turned 20, and I got to have it at a space called Hearne Fine Art. It is a Black-owned art gallery, but it's also deeply invested in the literary arts. It's been part of this community for 33 years now. I've been in the US as an international student for just a little over 5.5 years now. And I've been very fortunate that a good portion of that time has been spent in the company of not only the team that works here, but the artists that have passed through these doors and shown on these walls. And I've always been really impacted by how many artists I've interacted with that have been so incredibly generous with their time. So even if, larger institutions don't always have everything, that isn't to say that there aren't people that are invested and making efforts and pouring in time and energy into trying to support artists in every way that they can. And I've always been just really moved by the amount of artists that have been not only, willing to answer questions, but support or give critique. Critical feedback is such an important part of getting better at your craft. It's not just doing the work, but it's trying to do it better every time. And I've been very fortunate to have people that have answered my questions. And every time I've said, thank you, for being so generous. They said, someone did this for me when I was in your position. Someone, stepped in the gap and answered questions for me or supported me. Someone bought my first work, even though, it wasn't the best thing in the world. And that allowed me to get better at what it is that I do. So, I think even if there is still progress that can be made on a larger scale. I don't want to discount the efforts that are made within communities often to support, and particularly in creative communities. I've gotten to really appreciate that, unlike some other fields where things are a little more competitive, there really is a spirit of camaraderie and generosity in the arts. And that seems to be a through line that I continue to see as I continue to interact with more artists.
And I would say, like Louise, for me, it has very much been a community and mentors. So I've always straddled the line of being a professional artist and then also having creative freedom in how I pursue my own creative endeavors. So on the professional side, I've always chosen editing as an option for, an outlet for my writing and to give my creative, energies a break in that sense. And to me, editing is more functional, it's more calculated. So with that, I've had several mentors along the way. And fortunately, I would say, Mr. Oliver spoke on this about just having representation of not only like works inside of educational systems, but also individuals that look like us inside of the educational system that are living these creative lives. And I would say, spending so many years in education, I didn't really have a Black mentor or representative or professor until my very last year of my master's program. And luckily I got to, and her name is Dr. Shelley Connor, and she was my thesis advisor. So she came at the perfect time before I graduated. And I was quite fortunate to be able to be under her mentorship, just simply because it was hard competing in a creative sphere without having like someone near and close to you being the representative of that. So I was, once again, fortunate to have her, and she guided me really well creatively. But then also just having people in just different worlds outside. So one of my greatest mentors is also Wesley Brown, who's helped me major time, or big time rather, in the editing world. So with that, I think the mentorship, the community, and just having people to vouch for your work, to want to give time to see and to help you blossom and grow. So, not just, holding those skills to themselves, but, being willing to pass those on and being graceful and patient in that, because it was rough starting out. But now, it's nice to know that I've grown under their wing, if that makes sense. But I have, realized definitely, without them, I think it would have taken me much longer to get where I am now. But with them, I do owe a lot of the credit. And then also, of course, having the Pyramid Bookstore and then the art gallery, and seeing artists and creatives of color come through there, Black individuals, Black voices, those also help to nurture my creative energies as well.
I want to say excellent points, ladies. That were really good. Community, we are talking about Kwanzaa and unity. So I want to take those last few letters of community and kind of tie it into unity, because growing up, my mama, my mother sent me to church. And those folks at church made sure that I could read those biblical verses, read them well. And they also made sure we participated in Black history programs, and in those Black history programs, we had to read poems by Maya Angelou and Paul Laurence Dunbar, people like that. So our community played a major role in my nurturing, as an artist, because to this day, I don't forget those songs. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. That says a lot to them. Look, at the time I was a little small guy in stature, and one of the teachers taught that song to me. Hey, this little light of mine is just gonna shine. So Negro spirituals, being in the community, all that's extremely nurturing. And that's why it's important for all the institutions in our community, churches included, that you have art programs. You know, we have great choirs, yes, but also why not have a great debate team at your church also? You know, what is your church doing around creative writing? But there was some wonderful writers that came out of the Black church experience. So we should, so this, again, the church was part of my growing up, and my parents. My mother always brought home magazines, newspapers, things like that. So I saw my parents read a lot. So, you know, that was part of my nurturing process. Reading Ebony Jet magazine, you know, coming from an Arkansas publisher, John H. Johnson, and he featured writings of Port W. Phillip, Gwendolyn Brooks, Haki Madhubuti. The list goes on and on. The Black writers were featured in those publications. So, you know, again, that was that Black excellence that was brought to our own by my parents. Young people have more access to that now at internet, where they can go on these various sites and, you know, Degree Art and others who offer you know, celebrate Black literature, but also to be able to travel around the country, go to, you know, Black literary festivals, limited now, but they're online virtually like we are now. So, you know, that can play a role in nurturing, which again played a role in my nurturing. But I was extremely blessed to be able to move to Southern California at a very young age, 19 years old, and move and live in Inglewood, California for 11 years in the midst of a huge hub, Black cultural hub. And that's when I really understood the importance of Black literature, because I was able to visit museums, attend book discussions, I mean, all sorts of things. Then after that, working as director of sales and marketing at Third World Press, working for Haki Madhubuti. I mean, come on, you don't get any better than that. One of the most noted literary figures of our time. To be able to work with him for 5 years as director of sales and marketing took me to a level I never would have thought a Black boy from East Little Rock having a chance to work for one of the top literary figures of our time. And then the exposure to all the writers who we published that I had a chance to meet. So it is those type of experiences that can be made available to young people in Arkansas that were made available to me. They may not be able to travel, but now through virtual sessions like we're doing now, they can meet these writers and authors. And they can, those type of things can be initiated by cities, by churches. You know, we can have a virtual session with a Giovanni or some of the young, powerful Black writers, Time Jess and others, Jasmine Ward, via virtual sessions, and they can be sponsored by the city or by churches. So that's where we have to go in terms of if we want to nurture the next generation of folks like the three panelists here.
All right. That's wonderful, guys. I would really love to, you know, dig in with you all day, but I'm gonna ask you one last question, and we're gonna try to wrap this up as best we can. What are some ways that we can introduce fine art, literary, artistic, visual, audio, into the daily lives of people in our community and beyond?
Go ahead, ladies.
You know, I think it speaks to intentionality. It's not going to happen by chance. It's going to happen, you know, because people intend to. And so, you know, I think these individuals that I get to be in a panel with are good examples of the fact that, once again, the work is being done in the community, that there are wonderful artists that are here and that there are spaces where their work is getting to be shared. And so I think making an effort to go to those spaces where possible, if that means, you know, trying to get a book that is written by, you know, a brother or a sister, that would be a wonderful way to bring the literary arts into your world. Or, you know, really looking for talented musicians. There's so many that have such gifts to share. Or on my end, of visual arts, you know, there's Hearne Fine Art, but there's also Mosaic Templars. And once again, these aren't new spaces, they have been here. And so it's going to happen because we want it to. And I think people being intentional would be a wonderful way to be able to start to engage. But once again, not just on the level of people that are doing it, but younger people that aspire to. So, if you really want to invest, think about the kids that are at schools that maybe don't have access to, the materials that they really need. And, what would it really cost you to get some brushes and see what school might need? What schools might need art materials, what is it really going to cost you to have a conversation with an art educator and say, what is it that you need to really be able to invest in your children and help them, be the best that they can be? What are you missing? So it's going to happen because we make the effort to step in the gap and try and be intentional about cultivating, an appreciation and value for the arts in the places that we are and with the people that populate our realities.
And I think it's just really just spreading what's already available, right? So for example, supporting local Black artists, also Black businesses. So for example, Hearne Fine Art and Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing, two places that celebrates the art, but in one location, right? So kind of embracing those, also in a sense of, in your own way, figuring out how can you advocate for the arts in a sense, like within your own means and where you are in life. So, getting involved and especially the younger generation's life. So whether that's through voting, voting is very important, especially with all the, chaos and the changes going on within our educational systems. So figuring out how can you show up in that way, figuring out what can you do as far as like, how can you support, maybe if you're thinking, of course, Black artists here, but also just thinking worldwide, like how can you just support artists in general in that way? And then also just figuring out as far as your own story, like for me, I'm like, how can you preserve your own story or that of your family members, et cetera, to pass on information and keep it alive and going. So yeah, it's multiple, of course, answers to that. But I think it's really just figuring out, and like we said, being intentional about how can you yourself show up and model that and encourage art in not only your life, but in those around you.
Yeah, I love both of those points. Fantastic intentionality, and then celebrating your own, family, who you're. We're just talking about this. Where is the investment, where is the value, where is the respect for Black art? When let's put Black artists, fine art, visual art, graphic art, comic art.
Mr. Oliver, you cutting out.
But back in the day, they just said, "Get on there, when artists respect my art." So that's what we have to do.
All right. Well, I would love to thank you all so much for hanging out with us today and really speaking on these topics. There's a lot more to be said, but as of right now, I just want to give you all the space to promote your platforms. Where can we find you if we want to have further conversations or anything like that?
I guess I will go first again. So my name is Louise Mandumbwa, and if there's anything online of me, it's just my name. So my social media is just my name. I have a website that is artistlmandumbwa.com that I will type into the chat. And then I also have my work featured at Hearne Fine Art, and it can be seen on hearnefineart.com.
And then Victoria Mays, so owner of Pen to Print Editing and Publishing. So for those of you who are maybe interested in writing or have those incomplete manuscripts and just need someone to talk to guide you through that completion process, I'm here for that. Along with if you're even trying to preserve your family's history, snippets or pieces of that, parts of that, I can help you along that journey. So I'll also drop my information in a chat, but I can also be found on social media channels, along with my business website if you would like to contact me.
All right, and There we go. You already put it in there. All right. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. We'll pass this over to Wesley.
Man, that was a dope panel. That was a dope panel. I see a lot of people in the chat celebrating the panel. And this is a pinned kind of quote that Louise did. I want to read it. And she said it's going to happen because we want it to. And that just reminded me of, I'm a big Issa Rae fan. She says, you network, basically you network across. So in order to grow as artists, you have to be intentional with the way that you network. So I could speak for everybody that was on the panel today, like Victoria, Louise, Randy. I'll get to Mr. Oliver here in a second. Those are people who I was very intentional with reaching out to. I'm like, okay, Victoria is a way better writer than me. She needs to edit my stuff. Louise is one of the dopest artists that I've ever seen. You know, I need to run stuff by her. Randy is also just a great artist. So in order to grow just in your aesthetics, it's important to network across. And then like everybody was saying earlier, having those great mentors. So I think it was the summer of 2020, Mr. Oliver just had me on different panels, meeting all these great artists, writers from all over the country, and just interviewing them. So being intentional, like Louise said, is going to happen because we want it to. So without further ado, Umoja means unity. If I could have 3 volunteers to come off of mute and tell me how they are going to use this principle of Umoja in 2022. I need 3 volunteers.
Wesley, I kind of picked out the volunteers. It's people who have their cameras on.
Okay.
So I'm going to pick on Attorney Ferranda Brassfield. Go ahead and unmute. Introduce yourself and let us know how you plan on celebrating and commemorating and putting Umoja into use in 2022.
Well, thank you for volunteering me. I'm always happy to be here at Kwanzaa. Thank you guys so much for continuing to have this, and thank you so much for this amazing panel that you just put on. My name is Ferranda Brassfield. I am a local attorney, and the way that I plan to embody Umoja is to continue to work with my community, to continue to be available, to continue, like Wesley talked about, to network across, and to always keep in mind collective, all of the Kwanzaa principles, collective economics, and just working together, purpose, just having Kwanzaa 365. That's the way that I plan to embody Umoja and all the rest of the principles.
Thank you. Miss Felicia Kennedy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Felicia Kennedy. This is my first time participating in Kwanzaa here in Arkansas. I am currently a grad student at the Clinton School of Public Service. And one of the ways in which I will continue to show unity is to, every chance I get to find an opportunity to serve, my major interest is in finding money for folk to do those things that they're passionate about. So that's how I plan to continue to show unity.
And Miss Victoria Mays.
Okay, so yeah, I think for me, it's hopefully recording more of our stories. I think that's a lifelong work that I am definitely committed to. So I think just doing more of that, and I guess 2022 and ongoing, but I guess also sharing that with other people. So broadcasting that more, I'm kind of working on that with the stories that I do record in various mediums and forms. But yeah, I think the preserving our stories is my life's journey, and it's something that I'm excited to do every day. So hopefully I cross paths with all of you sometime soon in person, and get to know you over a period of time.
Thank you, volunteers. I'm gonna hand it back to you, Wesley.
Thank y'all. Miss Kennedy, we need to talk soon. Without further ado, we now have from our performing arts community, LeRon McAdoo of Backyard Enterprises.
My name is LeRon McAdoo, and I am presenting the Little Rock 2022 Kwanzaa 365 Artistic Expression. Let us be activated by the singer, performer, songwriter, and venue owner, someone I've had the pleasure of co-producing projects with, Tim Anthony. Yeah.
This is the best way. They say about us, and I know what they think about when we turn around and around. Two words. Who cares? But when we're alone and I'm singing my song for you, remember the feeling, remember the truth, dear. So, who cares what they think about us? About
Thank you, Mr. McAdoo, Backyard Enterprises, and a special thank you to the artist Tim Anthony. That was amazing. Without further ado, our next thing, it wouldn't be Kwanzaa without our candle lighting ceremony. So the next voices you will hear is Jaden and AJ. And Kwanzaa is all about community, so we want to be very intentional about allowing our children to have a voice as well as participation. So, Jaden,
Good afternoon.
Hello, guys. My name is Umoja, and I'll be telling you guys about Umoja, the first principle of Kwanzaa. Umoja stands for unity. It is spelled Umoja. It's for sticking together, as well as being able to, I'm sorry. It's for sticking to, this is, hang on.
Jaden. Get out of here. Get out of here.
It's for unity, to strive and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race.
So now we will be lighting the black candle.
Please introduce yourselves and let us know how you all plan to celebrate Umoja going forward. AJ, what's your name?
Your name?
My name is Angela Glover Jr. and how we will be representing Umoja is by working together, helping each other, playing together through good times and bad.
Good job.
My name is Jaden Glover, and I plan to carry on Umoja by being there for my younger siblings, guiding them through the paths, because I've been down most of the roads that they already are traveling down, especially with school work and things like that. I want to be able to help my younger brother grow up and be able to have good grades, maintain his well-being, his personality, all that, just be a great young man. I want to help my younger sister. I want her to be able to thrive. She's going to kindergarten next year, so that's a big change, stepping up from preschool. So I want to be able to guide her there and help her out. So yeah, that's how I plan to carry on Umoja.
How do you, Candy?
I care about Umoja because it's a fun holiday. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for lighting our candle today. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye. Bye. Finally, it's over.
Thank you, Jaden and AJ. Tomorrow is self-determination, Kuji Chagalia. We would appreciate everybody who came today to come back tomorrow. We have another great panel. We have more history of Kwanzaa tomorrow at 1 p.m. So make sure that you come back. I would like to thank again Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing. I would like to thank Backyard Enterprises with LeRon McAdoo. Thank you to everybody who participated today, and thank you for conducting creativity. Y'all came through today. That was a great panel led by Randy. Also, great panelists, Mr. Oliver, Patrick Oliver, Louise, and Victoria. Just amazing job in general. Thanks for the words from the mayor. And thank you, Auna Hearne, for coaching me through all of this. I would not be able to do this without you. Last but not least, we are partnering with a great organization this year called the Storybook Project of Arkansas. We are donating books to them. So anytime this week that you have a chance to go buy Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing, we need you to go buy a couple books and then donate them to the Storybook Project of Arkansas. In order to unify, like we say we want to unify, we have to start by being intentional, as Louise was saying, about the type of art that we provide our community, provide our children. So if we can get you to go to Pyramid or bring your gently used books from home, pull together all the books, we want to donate them to the Storybook Project. So without further ado, see y'all tomorrow. And Harambe, if I could get everybody to come off mute and join me and Harambe.
Wesley, you gotta have them put their fist in the air when they do it, okay?
All right.
All together.
On the job training, baby.
All right, I'm gonna count to 3, and everybody's gonna say Harambe. 1, 2, 3.
Harambe!
Harambe!
When it's 7 days, you'll say it 7 times. So